Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make these little dream catcher for your Christmas tree. Okay, so let's get started. So I've put everything in front of me so that you can see what we're going to need for this project. So the first thing you're going to need is a crochet hook. I'm using a 2.5mm crochet hook and a ring. So let's get started. I'll just move this out of the way so that you can see what I'm going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the web inside the dream catcher. So let me show you how we do that. So what I'm using here is just a really sort of fine cotton yarn for this webbing in the center. So the first thing we do is we do a magic circle. So once you've got a ring, what you need to do now is 10 single crochets into your ring. Just going to test my magic ring. Yes, it's pulling in. So we've got one, whoops. 2, 9, and 10. So it can be a little bit fiddly if you're not used to using the smaller crochet hooks. So once you've got your 10 inside your magic ring, you then just pull that tight. We then connect it to the first stitch with a slip stitch. There we go. So we just pull the work apart a little bit. So now what we want to do is we want to chain 3. And then we're going to go into the next stitch just with a slip stitch. Then we chain 3 again. Then go into the next stitch with just a slip stitch. Chain 3. And into the next one with a slip stitch. So you're just going to continue doing that all the way till you get back to the beginning here. Okay, so we're now back at the start and I just done a slip stitch and just connected that together. And as you can see, it looks quite small inside your hoop, but don't worry about that because it's going to stretch. Okay, so we'll cut our yarn we're just going to do a little knot and pull that tight. So we'll just fan out our little peaks a little bit. And now we're going to switch over to our green. So this yarn that I'm using here was just a leftover ball from my stash. To see what you can get your hands on. It is rather thick. It's probably about an 8 ply. Okay, so now what we need to do is we're just going to do a little loop, and then we're going to connect the web into the ring. So we want to have our yarn underneath the hoop, and that's how we're going to connect it together. So we'll just find a nice little peak here, and we're just going to go in, up and over. So we're just doing a single crochet, and that's how we've connected it. So now what we need to do is we need to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to go into our next peak. So the next one into the next peak. So now we've got 2 that are joined to the ring. So now we just do 2 single crochets, and then into the next peak. And 2 single crochets, and then into the next peak. So we're just going to continue doing that all the way until the end, and I'll see you when we get back to this point here. Okay, so we're now back at the start. So what we want to do now is basically we're going to cut our yarn, just pull it through with a little knot so it doesn't come undone. And then we're going to start at the top with our different colour. So this yarn I'm using here is slightly thinner than this yarn, but it doesn't really matter. So whatever you've got left over, just use that. So just use what's your little scraps and stuff like that. So it's a good way to use up your little bits and bobs. So now we're just going to connect through the top here. Just poke our hook through and connect it with a slip stitch. So we're now connected to the top on the opposite side. So we're going to chain 4, then we're going to miss a stitch and then go into the one after that. And then we're just going to do a single crochet, chain 4, miss a stitch, and then into the next one with a single crochet. Chain 4, miss one, and then into the next one. With a single crochet. Okay, so you can see that the pattern's starting to form, so we're just going to do that all the way around until we reach the end. Okay, so we're back at the beginning again, and I just connected it to the first stitch with a slip stitch. So now we're going to cut our yarn, and we're just going to do a little knot. Now, if your hoop is a different size, it doesn't really matter because there's no pattern as such with this. If you just follow the same rough pattern, you'll be fine. It'll be the same sort of, it'll be slightly different, but it'll be the same sort of thing. Okay, so that's what our dream catcher is looking like so far. So now what we want to do is we're just going to weave in our ends. So we'll sew our ends in. So we can flip over onto the wrong side. Just get our needle and we'll just sew in all our ends. Okay, so we've sewn in all our ends now, so what we want to do is we want to attach the beads and feather. So what I'm going to use here is the white yarn. You could probably use the other yarn if your beads have a bigger hole, but the beads that I'm using have a fairly small hole, so I'm going to use the cotton yarn for this just because it's going to be easier to thread it through. So now I'm just going to attach it to the bottom. I think we'll just go straight through there. And I'm going to just tie it in a little knot. So now I'm just going to attach my bead on. So we'll see if this fits through. Nope. So I've got my 3 beads on now, so I'm just going to make sure that's secure. It is, and then I'm going to just nip off the other end as close as possible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to find some really nice feathers that I prefer. So you don't have to use feathers. With it being a Christmas decoration, you can use ribbon if you like. Just have a look around and see what you've got. Okay, so I quite like these feathers. I'm just going to make sure that both of these fit into the hole of my bead. Yep, it looks like both will go in. So what I'll do now is I'll just put a dab of glue. It's just a craft glue that I'm using. Gives me a bit more time to move it around. Just a tiny bit of glue. Hold them together. And I'll just hold that in place while the glue dries a little bit. So all I did is shove the feathers with a bit of glue in the hole of my bead. So now what I'll do is I'll just cut off the string at the back. So what we can do now is I'm just going to add a little bit of ribbon just on the top of my dream catcher now. So just bring both ends to the top, and I'm just going to tie a little knot. We'll just bring it the right way. And there we go. Now with your dream catcher, you can put whatever you want on it. So if you wanted to put a few beads around here or sequins or anything like that to make it feel a little bit more Christmassy, you can. Or it doesn't even have to be a Christmas ornament. You can just make a little mini dream catcher to hang wherever you like. So there we go, that's your dream catcher. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, bye.